Hi, and welcome to another video on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. In this video, I want to recap what was a really eventful night last night at the Carlton Hall of Fame function. Now, this was the first Hall of Fame function that I'd been to. Last year, sent Paolo and Rocco down to the function, and from all reports, it was fantastic. And so this year I was keen to go myself and check it out. A really timely surprise with this function because obviously Brendan Fevola was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I remember sitting there last night and just feeling and just absorbing what was going on around the room and just the vibe around the club. I mean, I've been to functions before when we've been not so good, been to functions now when we've been good, and just to really feel the difference of everything that's happening, the energy in the room. Obviously, it helps when you are 2-0 in a season, then you have a function. It's very rare that you get to be in such a position and then sort of sit with it for a week and sort of soak it up a little bit more. You get a little bit of an opportunity to do that. But it was awesome. It was held at the Crown Palladium last night, 950 odd people there, and there were 3 inductees into the Hall of Fame. And yeah, I just wanted to share some of my takeaways from the night and some things that I think I learned and some perspectives that I think I gained from the evening. So 2 of the inductees, namely Jack Carney and Neil Chandler, have unfortunately already passed away. They played for the club many, many years ago. And, you know, they had family members there representing them, and listening to their stories about their father, their, grandfather, etc. really just opened my eyes up a little bit into how I think about the club and the way I operate with the club. Per se, I'm very much focused on the future, the now and the future. And I wouldn't say I've shied away from the past, but I've heard so much about the past that I do tend to focus more so into what's happening moving forward. It was really fascinating to hear the stories about, real life, working on farms, not a lot of money in football at the time. And so having to, sacrifice, playing the game that you love the most in order to go and, work on the farm or provide for the family. Also, we're talking about a period of time in the world where the Great Depression was happening. Finances were at a really, really low point. So the perspective of footy just being a game really came to light. And ultimately it is this fantasy world that we all live in. It's a made up game, made up rules. It's all fantasy, and we all live and breathe so much. And I think the bit that really got me with the 2 gentlemen who had already passed away and their families talking about, their old teammates still reaching out to them. The spirit of Carlton really came to light, and I was really taken aback by that. And I guess the evening was ultimately a reinforcement of the club and that family feeling. And I ask a lot of questions in pretty much all the interviews that I do now about, like, what is it about Carlton? Like, why do we get so invested? And I think, footy clubs, if you strip it back to like suburban footy clubs, what they do for those little communities there, I guess Carlton is it really is the same thing, just on a bigger scale. What the club have been able to create from, their inception 160 years ago to now, with, great players and champions and teams, and obviously, 16 premierships and a lot of success. That comes from a lot of hard work and a lot of commitment from a lot of people in a lot of different areas. So to see that spirit spoken about for, people who are no longer with us today, and like their family still getting that support and still feeling that love from the club and from the Carlton family as a whole, that was really special. Obviously, the 3rd member that it was inducted was a complete surprise to me. In the morning, we found out that it would be Brendan Fevola, and it didn't hit me in the morning. I knew it was significant, but having Fev back on stage at a Carlton function, getting emotional, telling the story about when Luke Sayers called him up and told him that he would be inducted into the Hall of Fame, it felt like a significant moment. And my initial reaction was, oh, there's a resolution. We have found peace. We've been able to move forward. I guess I want to spend some time talking about Fev and what he was to me. And I guess it'll be very similar to a lot of you who are watching this, whether you're born in the 90s like me, or earlier or later, those who got to experience Fev. And then at the end of the video, I would love for you to provide some sort of a tribute to Fev, or any of the inductees for that matter, if you watch them, and we'll go from there. But Fev, there was a comment that was made last night, throughout the evening, about like, you knew you were going to lose. You knew going to the footy you were going to lose. But Fev brought with him some special energy. I think it was like Charlie Curnow before Charlie Curnow. He had this ability to get the crowd going. He fed off the crowd. We fed off him. And, you know, for me personally, I came from the school of, you know, Kuda. He got me into the club, and, you know, he was one of my first idols. And then we went through that lean period. And then really Fev was the one that you'd go to the footy and watch. And hearing him talk about that, talk about the fans, talk about how much it meant to him to make sure that he signed every single signature that he possibly could. You know, just a kid from Narre Warren. You know, he's got this humility, but he's also got this arrogance, and it's a perfect blend, and he does it so well. But I think, as I said earlier, that the way it ended with Fev and the club, obviously after 2009 with, you know, the Brownlow and everything, and it probably wasn't just the Brownlow that was the reason for him leaving. There were a few other things going on in his life, and he needed to sort out. And unfortunately, it ended the way it did. It was tough at the time, because he was, for a lot of us, the one that brought us into the club. He was the draw card. He made us happy. We have a lot of our memories. I'm sure we can reel them off. Even when he didn't do anything too special. Like, I remember when he hit the post against Hawthorn in 2006, maybe. Thought he kicked it. I think everyone can remember that. You know, 2007, down 48 against the Bombers. 2008, kicking, you know, bags against Collingwood when we beat them twice in a year. Like, he was Fev, and he was special. And so when it ended, it was very hard to understand what was going on. I was still, you know, relatively young. I was 17 or 18 at the time. So I was still relatively young in terms of like what happens in the world when you become an adult and these themes and issues start coming up. And so that was hard. So to see that then eventuate into, you know, we can move on, you know, we can forgive, we can, you know, make sure he feels like he's a part of the family again. And to see how much it meant to him really brought back a lot of good memories, good feeling. And I think what we're doing as a football club, I'm sort of reading between the lines, I don't know this for a fact, but, you know, the whole stronger together mantra, I think it really does align with that. My next thought, to be honest, and it was just a thought, I don't know what it means, but my next thought was, wow, I would love for something like that to happen with Steve Silvani. Like, I know that relationships take time to heal after they've been, you know, through a little bit. You know, they break down over time for a number of reasons, and ultimately time is the greatest healer, and you've got to let that process take place. So it was good to see that we've done that with Fev. I feel like, I don't know, the next layer is Steve Silvani for some reason. I feel like there's a piece there where we can, you know, move on from what had happened and get together again and get aligned again. And so it was a special night. I sat on the table with Corey Durden. So it was part of the Guernsey Club sponsorship. You get a couple of tickets to these functions. I took Ur with me. That was awesome. And I got to mingle with a few of the players, really just talk to a lot of the fans. And I think for the first time with Corey, I noticed him, like, he's really matured, and it was just cool to see how he held the conversation. And you know, I'm really bullish on Corey and this year. And there's a little story I want to add. So last year, when I received my Guernsey Club sponsorship scarf, it had a rip in it, and like there was a piece of fabric that was loose, and it had gotten stuck somewhere in the packaging and whatever. It was a broken scarf. And I remember thinking at the time, oh, I think it's a bad omen. I don't know. Like, I didn't tell him about it at the time. It turns out 2023 wasn't a great year for him injury-wise, had a few issues. So I'm pleased to announce that the scarf that I received this year is free from any marks, any scratches, or anything like that. So hopefully that's a good omen for Corey. But yeah, I really did notice, you know, even just the way Cripps speaks, you know, it's just different. He used the word byproduct in a sentence, and I'm like, wow, like he's really like evolved the way he talks. You know, seeing guys like Corey, even Jack Carroll, who was like a really shy young man when I first met him, and to, you know, see him open up a little bit, like just little interactions like that. I guess you start to see the seeds of time take place. And yeah, look, it was just a good vibe in the room, and a really enjoyable experience, and probably something that's made me think a little bit more about honoring the past. Like, I'm pretty big on, honor the past. The past is what got you here, but ultimately you've got to create the future. Otherwise you live too much in the past. And I think it's given me a bit of perspective, and maybe just some interest in studying a little bit more of the history of the club, maybe getting a little bit more into the fabric of the club and what made it so great, like in the early 1900s. I don't know, I had this thought about it, and something I haven't really explored like properly. So maybe that's a rabbit hole to go down to, but we'll see how that one plays out. But yeah, look, overall, a really good night. I do want to give a very special shout out. So Mrs. Buckland, Kira's nan, she won this footy. It's a signed footy, signed by all the players in the team. She won it in the raffle, and she came up to me afterwards, and she's like, I want to give this to you. I want to give this to the channel. And I'm like, absolutely no, absolutely not. We're not doing that. But she insisted, and I was really taken aback by that. I thought it was a really beautiful gesture. And so I just wanted to give a real big shout out to Mrs. Buckland, who donated this to the channel. And I don't know what I'll do with it. I'll probably end up doing a giveaway with it. Maybe we'll wait until this becomes a premiership team signed ball, and then maybe I'll keep it. I don't know, but it was just another reminder of the power of the community, and the responsibility that we all now have, and the impact that we now have. And I don't know, I just thought it was really symbolic and really, really beautiful. And yeah, just another reinforcement about the club, and how much we love it, and how special it is, and what it gives to people. Like I said earlier, this is ultimately, it's a fantasy. It's not real, especially once you leave the country, you realize like no one knows this sport. And for all the talk about commercializing the game and becoming too Americanized, I think that's the magic of a footy club and footy clubs in general. Like, this is just a large scale community club. We just happen to be amongst one of the largest and most prestigious ones. And that's really special. Not all footy clubs have what we have. And it was another reminder of that. And yeah, I think just to see that community spirit again, and we've come a long way in a couple of years. We had COVID, we had lockdowns, and we were all a little bit rattled from that. And so to see us on this side, like, I don't forget about that at all. And so yeah, to band together and just to see the stability there, and to see it all take shape is exciting for what's to come. Who knows what's to come? More challenges. I really like the fact that in all the speeches that we hear about, we acknowledge that we're going okay now, we're stable, but we also acknowledge that challenges will come. That's not been something that I've heard a lot of growing up as a Carlton supporter. It's usually been around the confidence about, we are Carlton, so we'll be okay. As opposed to now that we've got that humility around knowing challenges will come, whether it's injuries, of late, or whatever else comes our way. Fixturing and things like that. We have the foundations in place to hopefully withstand the storm, because that's kind of what happens as you grow and you become more successful. You become more capable of enduring more challenges, and more challenges mean more triumphs to achieve. So yeah, all in all, a really good night, a special night. If you were there last night, maybe detail below your experience in any capacity. Maybe share some stories from the night for those that didn't get there. And if you have any stories from our inductees into the Hall of Fame, whether that's Jack Carney, Neil Chandler, or Fev, particularly the first two, because I'm too young to really remember them. So if you are watching this and you have memories of them, or have any knowledge of them, please share with us in the comments below, and we'll go from there. Go Blues.